Hi folks, Greg, your friendly garden guy right here at Willow Ridge Garden Center. Today we're going to be talking about pruning techniques, tips, and tricks. Now obviously I'm not going to be able to show you every single plant that there is to prune. I'm going to go over with you some basic things that you want to trim this time of year. This time of year being November, going into the latter part of fall and into the winter season. There are things that you want to trim, and there are things that you don't want to trim. Okay, so first of all, I want to show you a few things that you don't want to trim, and I will explain why and when that you would want to trim them. First of all, we have the azalea. Okay, azaleas are great. This happens to be the Johanna. It is a red. It's blooming now, even though it's not supposed to. It gets confused sometimes. But what happens is azaleas, especially the traditional azaleas, once they've bloomed in the spring, their new growth starts to come on after the blooms are gone. And then over the course of the growing season, toward the latter end of summer and into fall, those bloom buds for next spring will be sitting on the growth that happens this year. So right now, this plant is developing, has already developed and is developing bloom buds for spring. If you start to prune this plant now, you're going to be pruning off those bloom buds for next spring. Now, it's not going to damage the plant, but you know, the one reason you buy azaleas, or the main reason you buy azaleas, are for the blooms. So if you prune it now, you're going to be pruning off the blooms for spring. So you don't want to prune azaleas in this time of year, November, December, late fall into the winter season. Now, that's azaleas. Another plant that you don't want to prune right now are macrophylla hydrangeas that are not reblooming varieties. Old-fashioned macrophylla hydrangeas, the hydrangeas that have the big round blooms, the large leaves, and they're typically either blue or pink or somewhere in between, purplish or reddish. The old-fashioned ones, kind of like the azaleas, they only bloom on previous year's growth. In other words, this plant has already set its bloom buds for next season. So if you prune it, then you're going to be pruning off the blooms for next season. Now, the plant will come out fine. It will leaf out. The plant will look great. And I get this all the time is, oh, my plant is healthy. It looks great. It just doesn't bloom. Well, chances are that they pruned it at the wrong time. So that's another one you don't prune now. Similar to those two, and especially to the azalea, is the rhododendron. Now, the rhododendron is easier to see why you wouldn't prune it. If you'll notice, the azalea has these big, pronounced bloom buds that you can see that, boy, if you prune that off, then you're not going to have a bloom. So a lot of times you can't see those very well on some plants, but obviously the rhododendron you can. So you don't prune your rhododendron or your azalea until right after they've bloomed. That's the only time you prune those. Right after they've bloomed in the spring, then you can prune them, because then the new growth will come on, and then they can set blooms for the next year. Now we're going to talk about plants that you are going to prune this time of year. One of those plants being the paniculata hydrangea. This particular one here happens to be Little Lime Punch. Now, as you notice, it's got some dead blooms on it. And if you're just going to do a light pruning, all you have to do is take off those dead blooms. Now, you don't have to prune down to the next leaf like you would on a rose. There's no, you want, by the way, you do want sharp pruners. You want sharp, clean pruners, okay? So whenever you're pruning, make sure your tool is sharp and clean, okay? So we are pruning off just the bloom bud, the old blooms. And we're shaping it up just a hair. So there you go. Now, if you wanted to do a harsh pruning on your on your paniculata hydrangeas, once they've been in the ground for several years, you can prune them even harsher if you want them to stay lower and to get really thick and full. You can prune up to 1/3 of the plant off. Now, this is harsher pruning. Again, you need very sharp tools to do this because you're getting into thicker wood, okay? We're getting into thicker wood now, and we're pruning for size. That's what we're pruning for now. We're pruning for size. Now, these bloom on new wood, so we're not damaging any of the blooms that's going to come on next season. We are simply taking the height and the width off of this thing, getting it more in check, so where we've got it, it can be nice and thick and full for next season. And there you go. All right. So obviously I didn't shear it with electric hedge trimmers or gas hedge trimmers. I pruned it individual sticks at a time. Now, this time of year, most of your paniculata hydrangeas look like this. They still have their leaves because we're unusually warm for November. Now, this is 2025. This is November the 11th. What is today? This is the 8th. Thank you. This is November the 8th. And it's about 70 degrees out here, isn't it, Gabe? Oh, yes, sir. Sun's shining, 70 degrees. Well, Monday, which will be the 10th, and Tuesday the 11th, we're supposed to be in the 20s. Yes, it's 70 degrees now, and it's going to be in the 20s. So this plant, after Tuesday, will probably look like this. All the leaves will be gone. So I do like to wait until all the leaves are gone from my paniculata hydrangeas before I do any pruning. Heck, this one's still got some bloom buds that's fixing to open. But by Monday night, Tuesday, that'll all be gone. Okay? And then you can prune this one just like I did that one. Now we're going to go to another plant that you would think that you would want to prune this time of year or as soon as it lost its leaves. This one being the butterfly bush. Now, butterfly bush, they bloom on new wood, right? So it shouldn't be any problem pruning it. Well, I like to wait until the end of winter before I prune my butterfly bush, and here's why. Now, you can, if you wanted to, just trim what we call the dead heads off, the dead blooms off. You can do that with no harm. But if you'll notice, if I prune a stem here, this stem is hollow. Once it goes dormant, that stem is hollow. Okay? So what happens if you prune it now, you could have water and moisture get into that stem and stay in there, and if it freezes solid, then that stem would contract and expand just like a piece of ice being down in there, and that could damage the cells, the plant cells. So then you would have a piece of dead wood there. And that is nature pruning for you, and you don't want that. You want to be in control of your pruning. So you want to wait until probably late February, early March, before you start pruning your butterfly bush. All right? Now, there are other plants that you can prune this time of year. Sometimes you want to prune trees. The general rule of thumb is if a plant, whether it's a tree or shrub, is going to be blooming early spring, then you don't want to prune it in the fall or winter, because chances are most of your early spring bloomers have already set buds on those plants for spring. And if you prune it now, you're going to prune off all the beautiful flowers. Okay? Now, if it is a tree or shrub that doesn't necessarily flower, and if it is deciduous, meaning it loses its leaves, then you should wait until all the leaves are gone when the plant is dormant to do any pruning on it. And as a general rule of thumb, you don't want to prune more than 1/3 of the total mass of the plant. Okay? If the plant is an evergreen, evergreens have different pruning cycles as well. A lot of your evergreens right now are in their shedding process, and unless you're just pruning for shape or size and you just need to get out there with some pruners, I would wait again until more into midwinter to start doing any pruning on your evergreens. Some evergreens you can prune multiple times during the year, and that's fine as long as you're doing a light pruning. If you're doing a harsh pruning, I would suggest waiting until the plant is more less active growth going on. Okay, so that's my pruning techniques, tips, and tricks for today. Obviously, that was only a very few plants in the grand scheme of things, but that gives you a basic illustration on what not to prune this time of year and what to prune this time of year and why. As always, if you have questions about pruning or any other gardening questions, you can always call us here at Willow Ridge Garden Center, 865-481-3825. Or you can post your question on our Facebook page. And I do a live Facebook post every Friday answering gardening questions. 12:30 every Friday, I come on Facebook Live and do a Facebook Live gardening questions asked and answered by Greg. Okay? My name is Greg, the Friendly Garden Guy. This is Willow Ridge Garden Center, and I'm saying get your hands dirty. It's good for you.